Landed a job at an event consulting firm, and lately, I've been helping set up events at shopping mall venues and local farmers markets. My parents being farmers in the countryside, I naturally put extra effort into events that involve local farmers. However, something's been bothering me lately. It's common to sell local specialties at urban grocery stores and shopping centers, and lately, products like bread companions and jams made by farmers have been popular. I think it's interesting and generally positive, but I'm troubled by the farmers' words.
Urban dwellers eat our produce more than the locals do.
It was a conversation had in joke, so I didn't probe at the time, but having grown up eating produce I knew the origin of, including my father's vegetables, those words hit me hard. Once work calmed down, I called home and talked about that with the farmers. Then, my father started talking about their situation with a sigh.
Lately, we've been wholesaling our veggies to national chains, and yet, the local grocery stores are filled with produce from far away. Feels odd, but maybe that's just how it is everywhere now.
Before I moved away, our town got its first grocery store. Back then, I was in awe and dreamt of the city life, but since then, big chain supermarkets have come in, and my hometown has become more urban. I see, so that's how it is. We're no longer a society that consumes local produce locally. After hanging up, I felt a sense of helplessness. In elementary school, there was a push for using local ingredients in our school cafeteria, which made kids like me, whose parents were farmers, ranchers, or fishermen, incredibly proud. I also felt proud and happy, indescribably so, when my father's vegetables were used. I still remember how proud and happy I felt when Ashley, the class beauty, complimented.
Tom, your dad's carrots are so good.
My current job is enjoyable and fulfilling, but knowing the realities faced by farmers, including my family, I felt a strong need to act. Quitting my job to return home, I learned vegetable farming from my parents, and started a project to promote local consumption. Remembering that Ashley's family owned an Italian restaurant, I hope to get them to use our veggies. The restaurant, called Italian Delight, had a stylish and warm atmosphere, and it was a place I'd often go to celebrate special occasions. When I visited the old location, it was now vacant land. I couldn't believe the popular and tasty restaurant had closed down. I happened to talk to a neighbor. Used to be an Italian restaurant here, right? Did they close?
Oh my goodness, you're right. There was a fire a few years back. The owner was out on errands and survived, but his wife couldn't escape in time.
I hadn't known about the fire. Besides, the thought of the cheerful and kind lady passing away was shocking.
Their daughter suffered severe burns. It's a shame, she was such a beautiful girl.
That's how it was. To think such a sad thing happened to Ashley. Weighed down by the news, I returned home and immersed myself in farming to cope with the shock. Determined not to let the project fade away, I reached out to farmers and fishermen I knew to join the project. While they were happy to expand their trade to the city, they also felt sad that their products weren't circulating locally anymore. However, finding local retailers like grocers, butchers, and restaurants to cooperate was challenging, as many had closed over the past few years. I decided to put up posters at a self-serve stand by the field, inviting others to join the project. Eventually, as I became more established as a farmer, a well-dressed man visiting the stand approached me in the field.
Hello. These vegetables are fantastic. It's clear they've been grown with care.
The man, who dressed too neatly to be standing beside a field, didn't mind getting his clothes dirty, and crunched into the vegetables he had just bought with holding them in his arms. Thank you. I'm glad to receive compliments. I grew them with great care. It was the first time a stranger had complimented my vegetables, and I was internally thrilled.
I'm considering investing in your local consumption project. It's a great initiative.
His sudden offer took me by surprise, but such investment could expand our efforts beyond individual stores. However, who is this man?
I'm still deciding, but if you can fulfill a request of mine, I'll invest.
A request? What? Could it be some new scam?
Are you familiar with the region's traditional vegetables? There are various types, but the turnip is especially famous.
Of course, I knew it. I loved turnips as a kid, and we used to grow them at home. Yes, I know. When I was a kid, my parents grow them.
I want you to grow those turnips and sell them to me.
What a wild proposal. But honestly, I was saddened when I heard from my father that we wouldn't grow those turnips anymore, and I had always wanted to try growing them myself. This might be a good chance if I'm going to grow them anyway. All right. I've heard we still have some seeds stored away, so I'll give it a try. The man nodded in satisfaction. Then he loaded the large amount of vegetables he had bought into his shiny and fancy-looking car, and left. Since it was the right time for sowing, I talked to my father about the situation and decided to start growing the turnips right away. From then on, that man started to visit the unmanned stand from time to time to buy vegetables, and ask about how the turnips were doing. When fall deepened, I harvested the big turnips and showed them to him. He bit into one on the spot, and his eyes lit up.
My goodness! These are delicious! Yes, they will definitely do.
I found out that he worked in the food and beverage industry, and his restaurant's chef had been wanting to make a dish using traditional vegetables, so he had been looking for a farm that could provide them. While joining the project would require a discussion with higher-ups and might not be immediate, he promised to invest from his personal assets for sure. I wondered if there was such a big store around, as I didn't recall any. Maybe it was in a place I hadn't reached out to yet. Soon after, I was invited to an elementary school reunion, and went to a fancy hotel in downtown. I wasn't informed who would be there, but surprisingly, I could recognize everyone by face, and had a great time catching up.
Tom, is that you?
I turned around when my name was called, and saw a woman with significant burn scars standing there. Ashley, is it? I had heard she was burned, but I never imagined it was her face. It also was so severely. It must have been painful and tough for her.
Oh, I'm sorry. Must be unpleasant for you to be approached by someone with a face like mine.
To think the always cheerful Ashley would say something like that. She must have gone through a lot. No, what are you talking about? That's not true at all. I came back here about a year ago. Since then, I learned about the restaurant and your mom. It must have been hard. Trying to cover her scars with her hair, she told me about the situation back then.
When the restaurant caught fire, my dad was out on errands, but my mom was cleaning up and got caught in it before she could escape. I was studying in my room and didn't notice right away.
I knew it was a few years back, but I didn't realize it happened when she was still in high school. I'm really sorry to hear that. Does it still hurt? The sight of her reddish-brown skin looked painfully raw, and I couldn't help but ask.
No, not at all. But the skin got hard, so I can't smile as wide as I used to. That's a bit boring.
Her shy smile reminded me of how little she had changed. I felt my heart pounding as I remembered the sweet and sour memories of my elementary school days.
Look at that! What's with that face? Oh dear, you look like a monster.
I looked toward the source of the shrill voice, and saw one of our classmates, Kelly Reed. Kelly had always been selfish, needing to be the center of attention, and had a rivalry with Ashley, who was the class beauty.
With that face, you're doomed in job hunting, aren't you? So, a broke NEET? How do you even live?
What a terrible thing to say. I stepped in between Kelly and Ashley. Hey, stop it. Why would you say something like that? Kelly glared at me fiercely.
What is it? I heard you quit your job and took up farming. Couldn't cut it in the urban, right?
Clearly drunk, she started looking down on me too.
A dirt-covered farmer and a monster neat shouldn't even be at a reunion.
The reunion had barely started, and already the atmosphere was tense with discomfort.
I won't stand for that.
Suddenly, a familiar male voice filled the room. Standing at the entrance was the man who had promised to invest in the project.
Despite enduring a great hardship, Ashley lives her life with positivity, not succumbing to despair. Moreover, her father is the executive chef of this hotel, the brilliant mind behind all the dishes served here today.
I heard he worked in the food industry, but he was from this hotel. Wait, Ashley's father is the executive chef.
Moreover, that turnip salad over there, it was grown by Tom Green.
Me? Wow, it's true. There's a salad with traditional turnips in it. So, it was Ashley's father who wanted me to grow those turnips.
So what? If you work at this hotel, isn't it your job to serve the guests? Don't get all high and mighty with me.
Kelly's face turned red as she ranted.
You've insulted these two people. Someone like you doesn't deserve to taste any of the dishes here. Please leave.
The man said that, and opened the door with a smile. With an embarrassed look on her face, Kelly left, saying,
Like I'd ever come back here.
As soon as the door closed, applause and cheers erupted from the classmates who had been watching. It seemed everyone had been fed up with her loud and abusive behavior. Then, the man came over to me and started talking with his usual smile.
My apologies for the late introduction. I'm the vice president of this hotel, Stones. Thank you for coming today.
So you're with the hotel? And to think Ashley's dad is the executive chef, I'm truly surprised. Popping up behind me, Ashley smiled to him.
My father always speaks highly of you. And thank you so much for earlier.
They seemed to know each other, exchanging brief greetings before sharing the story.
Ever since I was young, I had the chance to eat fancy foods, but I never experienced a meal made with heart. The heartwarming dishes of Italian delight were a revelation to me.
Indeed, Ashley's father's cooking has a mysterious power to make people happy.
Therefore, when I heard the restaurant burn down, I couldn't stand by, and did everything I could to have Ashley's dad work at our restaurant.
That's how Ashley's father ended up working at the hotel, eventually becoming the executive chef. When I heard other classmates praise the turnips that I had offered, I realized I hadn't yet tried the dish. His cooking had evolved from the flavors of the diner to those of the hotel, but it still had the same warm taste as before. Ashley said, eating next to me.
Tom, the turnips you grew are delicious.
And I was completely smitten. After the reunion, I was able to make my first love come true after many years.
Are you sure you're okay with someone like me?
She asked, but honestly, that had never bothered me from the start. By the way, Mr. Stones is the son of the hotel owner, and is set to take over eventually. The hotel joined the local produce promotion project, and we've significantly increased the number of farmers and suppliers cooperating with us. At the strong request of Ashley's father and the local people, I've started to focus on reviving various traditional vegetables, not just turnips. Although it's challenging due to changes in soil and climate conditions, the joy of seeing them grow well is unmatched. As the project grew, it started to get featured on local TV and in newspapers, and that's when I proposed to Ashley. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. She took my dirt-stained hand and replied,
Yes, I'd be honored to.
Not long after, Ashley had inherited her father's culinary skills, and opened a restaurant that mainly uses our vegetables. Her restaurant has become a popular spot for locals as known for its heartwarming flavors just like her father's. As a couple, we support each other's work, with me helping out at the restaurant and Ashley assisting with the farming. We want to continue living together, hand in hand, supporting each other as a loving couple.